Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocals of Cryptopsy, and you listen to my podcast, Vox and Hops, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope that you've been having a good week. I hope that you are staying well. I hope that you are staying safe. Tomorrow, I am hosting another Vox and Hops Thirsty Thursday virtual hang. I sincerely look forward to these every week. Last week's was a lot of fun. We were a lot of people. I feel that this is growing, so please spread the word. And this is me inviting you right now, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come hang out with me, some of the Vox&Hops alumni, other Vox&Hops heads, and my friends with a craft beer at 8 p.m. at the Vox&Hops Thirsty Thursday virtual hang. It's always a blast. The link for that is available in the description of this podcast. You should come out. Today is the last of the episodes that I recorded before social isolation was a thing. Here is my chat with one of my favorite people to tour with. Today's episode is with Eliseo Garcia of Abysmal Dawn. Here it is, Vox and Hops, episode number 132.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Eliseo Garcia from Abysmal Dawn. Super good to be back with you, brother. How are you?
Good, man, and it's really good to see you.
Yeah, we met on probably one of my favorite tours ever. How can you top this tour? Cannibal Corpse, Obituary, Cryptopsy, Abysmal Dawn. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I don't know how that's probably my number one favorite ever. It was so much fun hanging out with you guys, the Cannibal crew, everybody was the best. But this tour is pretty awesome too, but that one is definitely number one on my list.
Just so many people that I met there, meeting you, Charles, James, meeting Garrity, who became like we text each other frequently, he came on the podcast twice. Huge shout out to Andrew Garrity, the Vox&Hops alumni. I love you, brother.
Love you, Garrity.
We are at the Saint-Bock Brasserie Artisanale. This is one of my favorite places in Montreal to come and drink craft beer. If you're looking for good craft beer, you should absolutely come here. If you're in Montreal, the Saint-Bock Brasserie Artisanale. We were just delivered a beautiful beer, one of their classics. It's called Malediction. It is a Milk Stout. Let's see what this sucker's got. Cheers.
Cheers.
Good, creamy, dark. It's a black beer. It's a Milk Stout. Clocks in at 5%. I've had it on the podcast a few times, actually. It's delicious. What do you think?
It's pretty good. It's not too heavy like most stouts. It's very drinkable.
Absolutely, yeah. Tell me about, you come from a craft beer mecca, in California. Let's talk about that. Are you a craft beer enthusiast?
I am, but I wouldn't say I'm a nerd.
like me,
yeah.
Is what you're saying, basically.
I enjoy craft beer a lot, specifically like sours, reds, and then probably like the New England style IPAs, unfiltered. There's a lot of good breweries out there in California, especially in Los Angeles. Off the top of my head, like McKellar. What's the other one? I can't think of any other ones right now.
Absolutely, McKellar. Funny enough, right here, right now, at the Saint-Bock Brasserie Artisanale, they have an Evil Twin versus McKellar beer event going on.
Okay. Oh, the other one, Modern Times.
Yes,
Modern
of course,
Times
yes.
is a big one over there from San Diego. Yeah, lots of good stuff. But anyways, yeah.
Cheers. Take me back to your youth. You're growing up in your house. What music was playing? What music did your parents listen to when you didn't have control of the radio?
My parents were weird. So my mom would always listen to typical Mexican radio. Mostly grew up with Gabriel Iglesias, Vicente Fernandez, that kind of stuff. My dad was kind of all over the place, which is kind of where I'm at. He went everything from the Bee Gees to AC/DC to just straight up disco. That was his thing. But he had a side to him that was also into like hard rock. So Van Halen, Black Sabbath, Zeppelin, Bad Company. That was kind of my introduction to a lot of rock.
At what point did you feel that you wanted to become a musician. Where did that come from? Do you remember that moment?
I can tell you one of the big turning points that I always will remember. It was right after high school, trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. I was already like playing for myself and playing in bands and stuff. But right after high school, I was thinking about joining the Marine Corps.
Really?
And yeah, I actually went and I took the entire test and everything. But it was, I can't remember the year, but it was the first headlining tour. It was Behemoth co-headlining with Gojira. And they played at the House of Blues, and I've seen Behemoth multiple times before this, but there was this one time where I felt the energy, and it was in a different kind of way, and I was like, man, you know what? I want to give this a shot and actually try to make this, see what happens. And that's when I bailed out of the whole Marine thing, and I took music and did that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Life would have been different.
Yeah, I would have. No long hair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have great hair, Eliseo.
Thank you.
Being from LA, you grew up in LA, such a hotbed for tours coming through, a hotbed for people going there to make it. It must have been easy to form bands versus someone else.
Not really.
Like in a small town where there's no scene. There's such a scene in LA.
I mean, there's a scene, but I think the difference is, I think there's pros and cons to everything, right? I can't speak for how it is in a small town or anything, but for LA, there's so many people that are trying to make it. I feel like there's a lot of people that are lazy about it. They think it's just going to be somehow magical, or like they have entitlement, or you know what I mean? There's just lots of people, but then the quality isn't really there. As far as of a person. As far as musicians, yeah, there's plenty. But having to find somebody that's the right fit is a little bit harder, I think.
How did that work out for you? How did you fit into the scene? How did you gather yourself around with like-minded musicians? What steps did you take personally to make that happen? How did you weed through the fakes?
I don't really have a patience for people that I don't vibe with, so I kind of just don't stick around them, but eventually, met Charles, met a couple other people, and just hung out, and that was kind of it. Just kind of vibe people out after a while. You kind of tend to figure out what people are about, if people are troublemakers, if people are decent people, decent human beings. That's really all that's all I want out of a friendship, so that's it.
You're asking way too much.
Just don't be a piece of shit. Or how about this? Don't be a malicious piece of shit. You can be a piece of shit, just don't be malicious about it.
It must be crazy. The scene is just so different from here in Montreal. We're so helping each other while we're building, whereas in LA it's more of like a competitive, cutthroat scene.
Yeah. I mean, that's in LA in general.
How did you learn to survive through that?
You kind of learn to let things roll off your back. At least that's the way I am. I don't really care. I don't like anybody that everybody gets theirs eventually. I've always managed to avoid shitty people. So,
do you think it's easier or harder to have made it?
Fine making it.
Well, you're on a tour with, you have albums out, you are in a successful band.
Maybe a little bit easier, I guess. Just because you have more opportunity, you have more things that are around you. The labels are out there, so you have more ability to reach somebody and walk up to them or get introduced versus living somewhere, far away like Montreal, where you might not have that accessibility. So,
tell me that story. Your first show, the first Abysmal Dawn show.
That was
How did that go?
Marquee in Denver, Colorado. That was right after I joined the band. That was 2011. I have a pretty good memory, surprisingly.
I like this, yeah.
We were heading out to meet the Obscura tour with Last Chance to Reason, and it was a one-off with Arsis, Abysmal Dawn, and I can't remember the other bands. I think they were local bands. But I remember being very nervous because it was my first, I would say, professional show, like being on the road. Whereas before I was just doing like gigs around LA with, my own band that I grew up with. Just remember being pretty nervous, but as soon as the lights went out and just got into it, you can't see anybody, and it was fun. Just headbanging on stage, and yeah.
How do you deal with your nerves?
I just get into the music, man. Like headbang, can't really see what's in front of me and just feel the music.
It's a perfect secret there for everyone out there. That's why we have long hair.
Yeah.
Imagine people that go bald and then they finally cut their hair.
That would suck. The worst is that, do you ever make eye contact with somebody and it's like a little bit too long?
Yeah, being the vocalist, I sort of have to. I try to keep it even just a little bit longer to make it even more awkward. Personally, yeah. You guys have a new album coming up. Let's talk about that. You guys finished it.
Finally.
Why did it take so long? What were some of the obstacles that made this new record take this long?
There was a lot that happened. So, after the Cannibal tour, even with the Cannibal tour, we had some lineup changes. Obviously, Scotty joined Morbid Angel. So we had to find new members and get a stable lineup. And then on the personal side, there was a lot of things that affected each one of us in different ways. I can't speak for everyone else, but I can speak for myself. I ended up getting a DUI. So for everybody else that's listening to this, don't drink and drive because it will bite you in the ass. But that really became a problem because the band where we record is on the other side of Los Angeles. So for anybody that doesn't live in LA, getting across town can be anywhere between an hour to 2 hours just because it's so big. So with the DUI, you can't drive, and that makes it so that I have to Uber, which costs $120 basically a day. Or take the bus. But that doesn't really exist in LA. Really? It does, but it's not really that great. So that was the biggest challenge for me, aside from some other personal things. And then, it was just a long writing process, but at the same time, I think it allowed us to create some of the best material we've ever written. We're the most excited we've ever been for something in a long time, and it was worth the wait.
Is it like a process that you guys wrote stuff, and then because it took long, you reworked it, and then reworked it again, and let it digest? No, actually, it was very fluid, very natural. It was no egos. We basically all would meet up at Charles's place, and I would write something and show it to James, and we would jam out and just trade ideas and build songs off of it. And then Charles would take it and kind of just formulate everything into the structure that he wanted for certain ones, and it just came together. I think the thing that took the longest is probably the lyrics. But I'll let you talk to Charles for that one. Let's go back to the DUI. Talk me through that moment when it was all going down. Where was your head? How did you feel?
Okay. It was actually right after the Slayer and Behemoth show in Los Angeles. Okay. It was the beginning of their Going Away tour. And I was trying to get home because I was with my girlfriend at that time. And I basically hit a car. I rear-ended a car. Really? Yeah. Okay. Because it was a construction zone, but I slammed my brakes and barely hit them, and there was cops up front. But, yeah, you got to be honest, I was terrified. It was a really low feeling point. Yeah. And
that phone call to Charles.
No,
how did that go?
So my girlfriend at the time ended up calling him because we had left his place.
Okay.
So she told him, and he was freaking out apparently. I called my girlfriend, and she walked me through it and basically told me I'd be out, within the next 2 hours. But, being 24 hours locked up, it feels like eternity. Every minute you're cold. You're in a cell with a bunch of other people that you don't know. No blankets. It just sucks. We think you're a touring musician too, so you've been on the road. You get your things deprived of you, your toilet, your bed, and everything else, and you think that's bad. But once you're in an actual jail cell, it's worse. I didn't think it could get worse. It's super scary. Yeah, it's
never drink and drive.
Yeah, don't, or just Uber or Lyft or get a designated driver. It's not worth it. Yeah, it's not worth it, especially because if you're a touring musician and you want to be one, you're going to have problems getting into Canada.
Which is my next question. What steps did you have to take to come here and drink a beer with me right now? having been convicted of a DUI?
This beer is basically $1,000 beer right now.
Oh shit! Why do you think they're so hard on certain things with borders?
Probably because they can tax it.
Okay.
Or because they probably just don't want to risk it. I mean,
what did you have to do? Like you spent $1,000. What steps did you have to take to get yourself here?
So there's different things you can do. I went with the most for sure thing because I wanted to be here. And I hired an immigration lawyer for Canada specifically.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And she basically got all the documents, which for anybody that's interested, they're actually free. But I'd rather have a professional actually write it out for me and have all the documents I needed. So she basically took that and took care of it. But I needed to gather my history for the last 11 years of where I worked, where I lived.
Every country you've been to? Stuff like that?
Nothing like that. Just any. That was my only conviction of anything bad. So just that. It wasn't too hard. It was just more of the cost. If I had to do it myself for free, without having to pay the lawyer, I think that'd be more of a challenge because I don't know what would be required.
I am personally very bad with paperwork, so I would probably go the same way. Would you ever feel comfortable, the whole paperwork not work, having a session basis come in? How would you feel about that?
At the end of the day, it's what's best for the band. It's not me. It's what's the band is the most important thing. So yeah,
that's cool. With that. Cool answer. Yeah. Take me back to one of your worst. This is one of your worst moments in your personal life. What is the worst thing that's ever happened on tour to the band? I know that Cannibal tour, that van was killing you guys, but there must be something worse than that.
I think that was the worst.
Then give me that story, because I know that story, but everyone else doesn't know it.
So we basically did I don't even know if we talk about this. I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry.
You said you had such a good memory.
Well, the things I want to remember, the negative things that I want to forget, I'm really good at forgetting. There was something maybe a little bit worse, and it still had to do with that damn van. 2013, I think, maybe. I don't really remember the year, but we did 2 tours back to back. In the U.S., we did it with 1349 Origin, and then we went straight over to Europe with the Toile. On the way back, we had to play some shows coming home, and it was around this time in the winter. And the heater in the van broke.
Oh, shit.
So we had to basically drive in the cold, like all bundled up from Philadelphia all the way to Los Angeles, and we had shows in the way, so it's not like we can just book it and drive all the way home. We had it took us 5 days to get home.
Shit.
Without a heater. That was probably the worst one.
That's pretty metal.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You want to make it, kids, you got to do certain things sometimes.
Yeah.
You guys buried that van, though.
It's gone. I hope it's in pieces, but I think it was sold off.
What are you guys traveling in right now?
We're on the tour bus. We're sharing it with Vader and the Hideous guys.
Yeah. That's badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Good party nights then.
Yeah.
Tell me about one of these party nights. What's a typical night on a Vader, Abysmal Dawn, and Hideous Divinity tour bus? Keep it no names, but what's the vibe?
I think majority of the people kind of actually just go to bed.
You guys are getting old.
There's a few people that actually stay up and drink, or we find a local bar and have a couple beers. But there's been a few shows where there's some guests and there's already 15 people on the bus, so it can get a little bit loud. But for the most part, it's been pretty cool, quiet. Yeah, everybody's easygoing.
Let's talk about craft beer a little bit more. If you could do a craft beer for Abysmal Dawn, what style beer would that be, and what would it be called?
Personally, because it's my personal taste, I would go with a sour, kind of like a. Have you ever had a hazy sour?
Yeah,
I'd probably go with a hazy sour because those are the ones that actually I prefer a lot.
Those complex sours.
Yeah, yeah. And then as far as the name, maybe a song title. I don't know.
Give me a song title. We'll make something up.
Let's go with Soul Sick Nation. We'll go with
Soul Sick Nation. The Hazy Sour. Sour Sick Nation. Soul Sour Nation.
That could work.
What is the moment that you're most proud of having been in Abysmal Dawn?
There's two. We already talked about one, actually, and that is the Cannibal Obituary Cryptopsy Abysmal Dawn tour, because that was definitely a dream come true, for sure. The second had to be going to Europe. Actually, there's three. Going to Europe with Death to All, and the third would have to be somehow being able to make it to South America, and playing some awesome shows in Chile and in Brazil. So
Absolutely badass.
yeah.
South Americans know how to bring it.
Yes.
Pure appreciation for the metal.
Totally.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that down there they're more extreme? Is it because less comes to them, so they appreciate it more? I don't know.
I believe that's what it is. I think that's what it is, for sure. I think they just don't get as much as somewhere like Los Angeles or Montreal. It's harder to get bands out there, and they just appreciate it, or maybe they know how much work it takes to get a band to come out. That could be it too.
What is a misstep that you wish you could take back concerning Abysmal Dawn?
I mean, to be honest with you, the whole DUI thing, that affected a lot of the time that I got to contribute to a lot of stuff. I still got to write a lot of stuff and contribute it, but I would have been able to contribute a lot more if it wasn't for the difficulty of having to pay $120 just to show up.
How long is it going to be until you can get back to driving again? What is that process?
That's all been taken care of. So the process is basically in California anyways. You take away your license until you basically take an alcoholics course, which is depending on your blood alcohol level, whether it was like ridiculously high or just normal. It's a 3-month program or 6-month program. Mine was a 3-month program, so did that. And then you have to have a breathalyzer installed in your car for 6 months, I think.
Which you now have.
That's already taken care of. This was in August 2017.
Okay, so does everything...
So that's everything we can take care of. Yeah, that's all behind me. I'm able to drive. It's just yeah. That's the only thing that's left.
So you went to see Slayer. You had a few drinks.
Yes.
And you just decided you felt fine.
Yes. Well, even further than that, I stopped drinking after a certain while, and then went over.
You planned it out.
Yeah, I had actually planned it out, but at the end of the day, the best plan is honestly just get a Lyft or an Uber, or just don't drive. That's basically it. So ever since then, basically, even if I'm having just one beer, I'm not going to drive. I'd rather just pay to get my car towed or take an Uber that costs over $100 than ever risk that again, because not worth it.
Not worth it. No. You guys have played with Death. You've played with Cannibal Corpse. Who would Obituary? What is that bucket list band that you haven't played with that you would love to tour with?
Personally, Gojira.
That'd be badass.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Or either Gojira or Behemoth, because Behemoth for me as a kid was always like I love their old stuff. That was what really got me when I was younger.
What was it about that old Behemoth that drew you in?
The live show energy. I mean, now they're still doing some great stuff like with Atmosphere and everything else, but man, back like in, what was that, 2000, in the early 2000s, when like Demigods, Los Ocultos, and like that whole era, though, that was magic. That they had like raw, pure energy of just craziness, and that was, to me, like incredible.
It's badass.
Yeah.
What are you most excited to do on this next record? Where do you want to play that you've never played? Where would you want to go?
We're hoping to go back to Europe again, because it's been over 5 years now also since we've been back to Europe. We want to hit Japan up, Australia. That's probably my bucket list for sure. Yeah.
Eliseo, thank you so much for coming, drinking a craft beer with me.
Cheers.
Having a chat with me on Vox and Hops. I appreciate it, brother. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. Know that I love and appreciate that. Much love and respect to Eliseo Garcia. So much fun to be with him. In case you were not aware, last Friday, Abysmal Dawn dropped a monster of an album called Phylogenesis via Seasons of Mist. This is a fucking incredible record that should be on your radar if it's not. I have been sincerely enjoying it since it came out last Friday. So go out there, listen to it right now. Phylogenesis from Abysmal Dawn. Much love to the Abysmal Dawn boys and crew. I love you guys, and I can't wait to see you all again. Don't forget that tomorrow I am hosting the Vox&Hops Thirsty Thursday virtual hang. The link for that is available in the description of this podcast. Copy that Zoom link, and at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, join me with a craft beer and some other Vox&Hops alumni and some Vox&Hops heads just like yourself, and we're going to hang out and chat for an hour. Until then, I hope you have a good rest of the week, and remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.